Hello everyone, my name is Joji Banik and today I'm going to teach you an introduction to Linux. So the first line that comes like right in my notes is it was built by Linus Torvalds. Okay, in 1991 he was a student of Helsinki University. He built Linux in 1991, like he kind of developed it. So let me just show you his picture. Okay, by the way, I'm right now in my Kali Linus Torvalds. Here is this guy. Okay, he is currently now 54 years old. But anyways, yeah, he developed it in 1991. Okay, so it's way old, like 2 decades it has been. Now, originally, like it was built for Intel x86 based PCs. Now, what is x86? X86 was basically an architecture. Please bear with my handwriting because I don't have a digital pad or some sort of that stuff. I'm here writing with mouse, so it's really very difficult to write. But anyways, yeah, Intel x86 was basically an architecture. Okay, you have x64, x32. In those days, the architecture was x86. So yeah, Linux was originally developed for Intel x86 based PCs as a replacement to Unix. Now, what is Unix? I'm going to discuss it in the next video. But right now, just remember it like sort of like Unix was an core operating system, like not an operating system, but a core memory, like sort of thing. Like you can develop operating system on Unix, you can develop operating system on Linux. Unix and Linux are basically interfaces which connects you and the hardware. You can say it connects the software and the hardware, the user and the hardware. So Unix and Linux are basically these kinds of things. So anyways, moving forward, we have basic features of Linux. If you have seen my video Why Linux, you will find like a lot of features. I discussed a lot of features. Here are some features. Okay, it is free and open source. You don't need to pay anything for downloading and installing Linux. It's completely free and it has an open source community, so every update that you get, it is contributed by contributors in the open source community. It is portable. Portable means you can like run it on any device. Okay, be it Raspberry Pi, like embedded systems like Raspberry Pi. Okay, Raspberry Pi has their own operating system, Linux based operating system. I'm going to talk about it later. You can use it on Androids, you can use it on laptops, computers, mobile phones, embedded systems, you name it. Linux is portable on it. Third point is Linux is very secure in nature. Okay, why secure? It works on kind of say a Linux kernel. What is Linux kernel? I'm going to talk about it later. But just remember it like Linux is very secure. It is very like less prone to virus and malware attacks. And even if even if Linux becomes prone to say a virus or a malware attack, the open source community, the contributors from the open source community work on it so as to make Linux less prone to this virus and malware attacks. The fourth point is Linux has a powerful CLI. Now, what is CLI? CLI means command line interface. Okay, command line interface. So what is command line interface? This thing I'm pointing at. Okay, this thing. This is called a terminal. You can say it's a terminal emulator. You can say it's a shell. What sort of thing? I'm going to talk about it later. Okay, I'm just giving you an introduction about what is Linux. So Linux has a powerful command line interface. So if you are developing something, okay, or even if you are just managing file systems, okay, Linux has a very powerful CLI. You can easily manage any file systems or you can easily develop anything. Coming on to advantages of Linux, it's free. Like I said from here, it's free and open source. It's stable. Okay, so what do you mean by stable? It does not crash. Okay, it does not lag when put under immense pressure, like if you are like say multitasking. it does not say lag or crash or some sorts. Okay, even if you are using a 4 GB of RAM, which is very less, like not less, it's quite enough, but it's the lowest available in the market. So if you're using a 4 GB RAM and you are multitasking lots of things, it won't crash or lag. It requires less rebooting. Operating systems like Windows requires time to time rebooting so that they are stable, they remain stable in nature, whereas Linux does not require any of those. The third point is it has high performance. Now, what do you mean by high performance? Like when you compare it to operating systems like Mac OS or say Windows. Okay, the operations that you do are generally faster in nature. Okay, they are very fast in nature, and also fast and also efficient. So they have a high performance, and Linux has actually has outperformed Windows 7, 10, 11. So Linux is very high performance based interface. It's compatible. You can work on it with like on any device, embedded systems like Raspberry Pi, Androids, laptops, computers. It is easily compatible. It has a fast and easy installation. If you have watched my video about the Kali Linux dual boot installation, you will see the installation is fast. It's easy. Like you just need to partition the disk, and the installation like kind of say, you can say wizard, the installation wizard will just guide you through. You just need to follow the steps, and that's it. Your Kali Linux or any Linux based operating system is just installed. And the last thing, which is very unique in nature, is full use of hard disk. Linux actually, let me just clear the screen. Operating systems like Windows, because now why I'm saying Windows so much, because I have used Windows much. I haven't used Mac OS, so I have like very less idea about Mac OS. But talking about Windows, if your hard disk becomes full, your Windows starts to lag, even crash at sometimes. Okay, if situation gets worse, it can even crash. But in Linux, if this is your hard disk, you can just use it completely. You can use it completely, and your Linux operating system will be fine. Whereas if this one is for Windows, your hard disk should be somewhere around this level. Okay, so that for Windows to function smoothly. So yeah, Linux completely uses the full hard disk. So it's another great feature. Let me just clear the screen. Okay. Now we are going to come to the Linux family tree. It's important. Let me just show you this. Okay, yeah. So the Linux family tree. Now what is Unix? Unix is basically an interface. Like as I said earlier, it's an interface that connects your softwares, your users to the hardwares like drives, your mouse, keyboard, anything. Okay, it just connects between them. So you would say, okay, Unix is an interface. So how does Unix become an operating system? Unix does not become an operating system. Neither do Unix nor do Linux become an operating system. Yeah, you can develop operating systems on platforms like Unix and Linux. Now, some examples of operating systems of Unix, one is Solaris. Okay, it's a famous operating system where enterprises and institutions use it. Okay, it's a popular one. Solaris is a Unix based operating system. Okay, Linux is not a derivative of Unix. Okay, many people confuse here. Okay, they think, okay, Linux came from Unix, but no, Linux is a separate thing, Unix is a separate thing. So why do people compare Linux and Unix? People compare Linux and Unix because Linux was made as a product to compete with Unix. Like, it has same ideas as Unix, but it is open source and completely free. Whereas Unix, it's not free, it's not open source, it is proprietary in nature. Okay, companies like IBM, Apple, Microsoft, I think Microsoft, yeah, IBM, Apple, I'm sure, Microsoft, I'm not very sure about it, but yeah, companies like this, they develop operating systems, Unix based operating systems, and this kind of sell out to the market. Whereas Linux based operating systems are completely free in nature. Let me write it free because it's very important. Like, it's the main aspect of Linux because it's completely free of cost. It's completely free, it's open source driven. Okay, so contributors from around the world contribute to the Linux development. So Unix is a separate thing, Linux is a separate thing. From Linux, we have three different branches coming out. One is Debian, one is Red Hat, and one is the Slackware. Now, what are these? These are families. You don't need to go into much detail about like why are they called families. Okay, but think of it like there are Debian, like Linux has three different categories: Slackware based systems, Red Hat based systems, and Debian based systems. And now these systems are called, you can also like interchangeably call it as families, Linux families. Now these things that emerge from Debian, Red Hat, and Slackware, Ubuntu, Kali, Fedora, CentOS, and SUSE, these are called as operating systems. These are actually the operating systems that you download and install in your system. Ubuntu, Kali are famous, like not famous, popular, I would say, popular Debian based operating systems, whereas Fedora and CentOS are Red Hat based operating systems. Slackware family is the oldest family in the of the Linux. It was developed very first, and SUSE was an operating system under the Slackware family, and it later became OpenSUSE. Okay, OpenSUSE. And now here comes like two other branches. Okay, the last very branch, which is Mint, and this one is Pop OS. So you would say, what is this Mint and Pop OS? These are two operating systems. These two are operating systems, but you can say they are based on the Ubuntu OS. Okay, now Ubuntu itself is a OS, but like, let me give you an example. Like Python was actually, I think, if I'm not wrong, was developed on C++ or C, I think. But anyways, yeah, Python was developed from another language. Similarly, Mint and Pop OS operating systems are developed from Ubuntu operating system. So these are kind of a derivative. So I guess this tree is clear. Okay, it was a very easy tree. Like, it's a history of Linux, or about how Linux gradually developed from 1991 to the present scenario. Okay, let me just clear it. Now coming to some popular Linux distribution. Okay, Linux distribution are also called distros, like in short. Okay, so some popular Linux distribution are CentOS, Kali Linux, the one I'm using right now, the system that one I'm using right now, Parrot OS, Raspberry Pi, and Ubuntu. Now Raspberry Pi, Ubuntu I have discussed. Now what is this Parrot OS? Parrot OS is basically a VMware or a VM machine. Now what is this VM machine? It's a virtual machine. Okay, virtual machine. So what is this virtual machine? uh, let's say you have Windows, but you don't want to switch to Linux based operating systems. Like, say you want to use Windows, but you also want to use the powers of Linux inside Windows operating system. So you have websites, like a popular website is Hack the Box. It's a website that allows you to create a virtual machine. Okay, so you don't actually install the Linux operating system, you run the Linux operating system on a cloud based software. So Parrot OS is that VMware. Okay, you run Parrot OS on a cloud based operating on a cloud based software. Okay, you don't actually download it, but you can use each and every command of Linux on such platforms. So anyways, yeah, that was the difference, like the definition of VMware or virtual machines. Okay, now the another important thing, I think this one is the last thing. Okay, is this the shell family. Now what is this shell? Shell is basically where you type, like it's the say interface. Okay, let me just write it again. It's worse. Interface. Oh god, man. Worse, anything. Okay, so shell is an interface. Now what do you mean by this interface? This shell interface means like, say it's an interface by which the users can write in their commands to the system. They can write in their commands into the system. I'm writing SYS for short. They can write commands into the system through the help of this interface. Like let me just clear it. So first is command. From command it comes to shell or the interface, and from shell it goes to the system. This is the kind of the follow-up structure. So there are different types of shells. We have got the bourne shell, C shell, corn shell, born again shell, Z shell, and fish shell. This one is the fish shell. So from bourne shell we have two shells, okay, which is PDKSH and ASH. PDKSH stands for POSIX shell and Armquist shell. Okay, these are not very used. Bourne shell is not very used. It was the older version. Okay, the newer version of born again shell is bash. We have got bash 3.x and bash 4.x. This one is the more popular and the newer version. We have another popular version called Z shell or ZSH. Okay, it has various, like you can see, it has various extended features and plugins. Okay, we have another shell which is kind of very interactive in nature. We have which is called fish shell or fish for short. It's interactive shell. Okay, and another two not very popular shells are C shell and corn shell. Under C shell we have 10x C shell, TCSH and other variants. Under corn shell we have public domain corn shell, PDKSH, and corn shell 93, KSH93. You won't find KSH93, PDKSH or ASH, PDKSH, TCSH very much. What you will find is in today's operating systems, Linux based operating systems, you will find bash. You will find let me just clear it. Okay, the ones you will find is bash. You will find bash in most of the cases. You will find Z shell. You will find fish. These three you will find almost anywhere, anywhere and everywhere. And these KSH, TCSH, PDKSH and ASH are not commonly used right now. So yeah, that was the today's video. Let me just sum it up about what I just said. uh, Let me just go once again to the top, very top. Yeah, Linux was developed by Linus Torvalds, 1991. Originally developed for Intel x86. These are the basic features of Linux. These are the advantages of Linux. Okay, this is the Linux family. Linux family, where Linux is an alternative to Unix. It's an alternative. I'm writing alt for short. And Linux has three families, namely Debian, Red Hat, Slackware. Slackware is the oldest one. Slackware is further developed into SUSE operating system. Later it became open source. Under Red Hat comes Fedora and CentOS. Under Debian based systems we have Ubuntu and Kali, the one I am using. Under Ubuntu we have two more operating systems, which is Mint and Pop OS. Some popular Linux distribution or distros. Okay, remember the term distros, you will find it everywhere. Okay, like people generally don't use the long word distributions, they prefer to use short words like distros. These are the popular Linux distributions. Now coming to the shell family, we have bash shell, bash, born again shell. We have the older version, Bourne shell, to another older version, C shell and corn shell, to new and popular shells, the Z shell or ZSH and the fish shell. So you might ask, what is the difference between Z shell, fish shell and born again shell? Born again shell or the bash is the primary. I'm writing prim for short. It's the primary. Z shell is like an upgraded version of it. It has many more features and plugins. And fish shell is kind of like the interactive version. I'm writing int for short. And it's the upgrade. And in bracket ZSH. And this one's bracket will be fish. So yeah, that was it for today's video. This was a short video, I think. I don't know how much I recorded. So yeah, this was a short video. I hope you got an overview into the introduction of Linux. If you liked this video, consider liking the video. If you really understood what I taught here, okay, and learned something new, make sure to like the video and also subscribe, because I am going to release a lot of videos on Linux, and in the upcoming days, if I learn networking and all other shell scripting and all those, I will be releasing their videos as well. So yeah, do consider subscribing to the channel, and yeah, please like the video. Thank you. Oh, okay. I have to end the recording. Anyways, thank you very much.